Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Bite Size Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clates AFC on X. Fresh back from Milan. Well, fresh is a lie. Back from Milan and here to preview the Chelsea game. We're in a little bit of I wouldn't call it a rut, but we're in a sticky spell at the minute. So to preview the Chelsea game with me, it's Bobby, and I can't remember your social media handle on X, so you're gonna have to introduce yourself there. Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Oh, Joe, not too bad. Thank you, Clayton. It's just Bobby Love FPL. Nice and simple.
That's the one. Yeah, I don't know why for a second I was like, is it Bobby loves FPL or Bobby love FPL?
Don't love FPL at the minute. Stinker of a season so far.
Yeah, no, I'm struggling with it as well at the minute. But yeah, we obviously had to cancel the review of the Newcastle game last week, so sorry about that. But yeah, we're. How would you describe the spell we're in at the minute? I semi-used the word rut. I think we're in a sticky spot. How would you describe it?
It just feels like we don't really like these winter periods, do it? It's December last year, October, was it 2-3 seasons ago, and it's October, November again this year. It just feels like the team doesn't want to get through a winter spell without a few dodgy results, and then usually January onwards we pick up again. So looking forward to that period again. Kicking on with some 5-0, 6-0 wins like we did last season.
Yeah, me too. And I can't remember if I've said it on this pod or like in group chats or what, but I'm very confident that if everyone's fit, we're capable of kind of replicating that run from January till the end of the season. Like we only lost against Villa and then drew. I was against Man City, weren't it? Like I'm very confident we can put something like that together again. It's just hard to kind of see it with the spell we're in right now. And yeah, it starts with Chelsea. So obviously, I think a large proportion of why we're struggling so much at the minute is the injuries, right? And yeah, it's no different with this one where let me go through the team news before we get to the predicted 11. So Declan Rice has he obviously missed the Inter Milan game midweek. It's a broken toe. And Mikel said when asked, I have to be very vague on that one because there's no clarity on whether he's going to be fit for the weekend. We'll talk about predicted teams in a second. On Kai Havertz, so he obviously went off with I didn't realize this because I was in the stadium, but yeah, he was literally bleeding, and not sure what the concussion protocol is on that. And Mikel Merino went off, and I'm trying to find the quotes on this one, but Arteta basically hinted that it was like a bit of an illness. He wasn't feeling great the day before, but I don't know about you. I didn't think he was playing too well, so when I saw it at halftime, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's tactical. But yeah, how do you read into those two on Havertz and Merino?
Havertz, I would expect to be okay. He didn't look dazed or anything like that. Obviously, the Milan keeper waved the bed straight over because he must have seen the blood pouring from his head. But I would presume a couple of stitches stable, so he should be all right for Sunday. It's 4 days from the match. But yeah, I thought Merino, I think Arteta's possibly protect him a little bit with the early substitution, just saying it was illness because he dropped a stinker basically. It wasn't his best performance, but I would hope it's he's still finding his legs in the team, isn't it? He didn't get a run of games before Odegaard, then went off injured, and we just haven't seen the best central midfield pairing, well, trio basically at any point this season. So hopefully with Odegaard getting some minutes on Wednesday, that we'll start to see some sort of form come back into the team in the centre of the park.
Yeah, I really, really hope so. We need it because while I say that I'm confident this team will go on a run, it almost doesn't matter if the gap between us and whoever's first at the time is then too big. So it's one of them where you kind of have to keep within an arm's distance to put yourself in a position where going on that run makes it achievable to go and surpass the teams in front of you. I found the quote on Kai. It was Kai had quite a nasty cut and he could not continue. And then on Merino, yeah, to be fair, the day before he wasn't feeling great and we decided to sub him at halftime. I think, like you, he's probably just protecting Merino a bit there. But on Havertz, yeah, I think he probably does make his way into the team. And I think it's a case of we probably can't afford to play without him if the likes of Rice isn't there. I'm not sure about you, but I looked at Odegaard coming on I looked at Waneri coming on before Odegaard and the fact that we were 1-0 down and Odegaard only coming on in stoppage time as maybe he's not quite ready to start against Chelsea. But on that front, do you want to take it away with what you think the 11 will be? I think on Twitter on X in Emma's group, so Jump the Wave. You're doing quite well in that one, aren't you?
I've joined second, I think. I was
Nice.
quite surprised. And
Oh, sorry, I downplayed that. I didn't realize it was joint second. So.
yeah, I was quite surprised myself as well. So doing okay so far. So I've seen your lineup. I went with the same back. I brought White in and the back four. I think he gets a start. Party and Rice double pivot. I think Rice gets an injection and plays through the pain barrier, but then doesn't play for the internationals. And I've gone Saka, Martinelli. Who have I gone in midfield? I can't remember the centre midfield, but I've gone Havertz up top.
Sure. All right. No worries. If you could find that while kind of go through it, get through my one, that would be great. I've gone with. It's one of these where I don't know if I hope you're right or I hope you're wrong on Rice, because on one hand, yeah, it would be great if he can play through this game, but I don't know what the knock-on impact is on him potentially taking an injection to get through. But yeah, I'm working on the assumption I don't think he'll play, just with a broken toe and the fact that he wasn't in the squad at all against Inter. Again, I feel like it may be a little bit too much for him. So I've gone Ryder in goal. I think it'll be the same back four that started midweek of White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber. As a result of no Rice, I think he'll go Marino and Partey, despite Marino looking a yard off the pace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's every chance he does go Jorginho and just someone that he trusts tactically to implement exactly what he wants. But I just think he'll go for that kind of physicality in Marino and Partey. And I know the irony is lost in, not lost in the fact that Marino has kind of come in to win duels and be this powerful presence, and he looks a yard off it. But I think that's what we'll go with. Partey, I think whenever he's played centrally, it looks like we're playing our best football. And then I think the front four will be the same in Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Havertz, but would not be shocked for a second if Jesus came in for Trossard, because Trossard is not firing at the minute. Have you found what your lineup was?
Yeah, I went with Marino in the middle, so I think I went with a midfield of Marino, Rice, and Partey, with probably Rice playing the more advanced role rather than.
So for the podcast listeners, they obviously wouldn't be able to see what your team was. Could you read it from kind of keeper to striker?
So Real, White, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, Rice, Marino, Partey, Saka, Martinelli, Havertz.
The Bournemouth midfield.
Yeah. So it's I'm not too keen on that central midfield, but again, I agree with you. I don't think Odegaard's going to be rushed in, and that would be the person who I would start over Rice probably and rest him out. I would love to see Ethan start, but again, I don't think Arteta wants to throw him too much into the Lions den. Maybe he comes on from the 60th minute, we see more in the way of increased minutes, but yeah, I think he goes with safe rather than risky and try not to fall further behind.
And then what's your thoughts on the kind of change of system away from, thinking he'll go away from that kind of 4-4-2 with Havertz, Trossard to the 3 in midfield again?
Just think that 4-3-3 is the formation that works best for the team. Basically, I think it hasn't been the loss of players that have affected us more. It's been the loss of Havertz from the focal point up top that I think's affected us. If we look back to last season when we're in the exact same predicament, it wasn't until Havertz started playing that 9 role where we really started to just click and kick on again and find the form. I think it was 20 games into the season last season, we were 6 points behind City, and then we went on that run of form and went ahead. So I think it's really getting that focal point and then building around Havertz backwards where we'll really start to find some sort of foundation again and kick on.
Yeah, that's what I one of the few things I liked about Wednesday actually was he actually tweaked the role slightly. So usually in the last few weeks with this 4-4-2, 4-2-4, Havertz has kind of been going into those kind of wide right half spaces and playing facilitator connector. And I agree with you. We just need him as that focal point. Whereas it was actually Trossard doing that on Wednesday night. And don't get me wrong, Trossard was dropping a stinker doing it. But I liked the fact that he'd clearly seen the same thing and had tweaked it. So Havertz was more central and it was Trossard going and alternating. So
it's the Saka being doubled up on. Obviously, you do need that support for Saka so that there's 2 or 3 there to pull those defenders out of position. And Saka, when he breaks through, obviously he's looking for the cutback or the cross into the centre. And when it's been Havertz there doing that, there's no one else there that can provide that height or strength that Havertz is is done. And I think it's since Havertz has been filling the Odegaard position that we've just looked like we've lacked that creativity, and it's purely because he's not been there to be the final ball.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can't wait for Odegaard to come back. I think it's one of them where, to be honest, there is a little bit of a concern on, like, even if Odegaard comes back, is there like deeper not structural, like, is there just too much emphasis on like control and slowing the tempo down to the point where we actually then get null and void of ideas when teams have the time to settle and rest into their shape? But yeah, that's something that Odegaard changes the dynamic.
I think it's exposed the lack of backup to Odegaard, so I think it might expedite the plans for Ethan. That might be why we've seen a lot more of him in Europe and in the Carabao. So hopefully with Odegaard back, Ethan will start to sub in for him a little bit more, so that if we are faced with the situation again, he can be the starter and we don't have to go 4-4-2 and sacrifice what we're good at to try and avoid losing games rather than going and winning games instead.
Well, one thing it'll be interesting to see if he does go with the team that you've kind of predicted, because in midfield, I think Lavia and Caicedo are a double pivot that is going to be problematic for us. And if he does opt for that kind of midfield trio of, what was it you went for? Partey, Rice and Marino, then that's three that I think can absolutely compete with them. If it is just the two of Partey, Marino with a Trossard or Havertz dropping in, then I'm a bit nervous about that. But yeah, the Chelsea team that was put out for the draw against Man United was Sanchez in goal, Gusto, Fofana, Colwill, James. They have been kind of playing James on the left. I think in that game, Gusto was subbed and Cucurella came on, and then James went to the right.
Went right back, yeah.
Yeah. And then, midfield two of Lavia, Caicedo, then the wingers of Neto, Madueke with Palmer in behind Jackson. Now, Cole Palmer's been a doubt in air quotes. How do you read that?
I would expect it's the same as Declan Rice. So usually what Arteta does is just not given enough information when it's a big game on Sunday. So I would probably expect him to start, but confidence obviously jumps up massively if he's not in that squad on Sunday.
Yeah, me too. And I think that leads nicely onto score predictions. Like on the Chelsea side of things, they are doing so well. I think Maresca's doing a very good job. He's annoyingly likable while also being not likable. And like what I mean by that is like he looks like, when I say looks, he sounds like the kind of guy that it's just a bit blunt. He's very direct, but he does it in a bit of a charming way. And I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I don't hate you as much as I should, but I'm sure on Sunday there will be a reason for me to find a way to hate him. But yeah, you spoke about if Palmer's in the team and if he's not in the team, what impact that has on your confidence. So let's head into the score predictions. Before we do that, I'm just going to shout out a couple of the guys that are in the chat. So we've got Tommy Gunn is in, evening guys, and Pontus Johansson is in, evening guys. Hope you're good, mate. Both of you, feel free to share your comments and thoughts in the chat, how you're feeling ahead of the game on Sunday. Are you concerned about the little run we're on at the minute? And what do you think the score will be? So let's go into it. Season so far, Nima and I have predicted 10 each. We've got the correct outcome 50% of times. He's got one correct score. I haven't got any. Yeah, and I won't go through all the kind of how many we've predicted we'd score and against and all of that. But this is one where at the minute, what's the gap between us and Liverpool? I think it's like 7 points, right?
7, yeah.
They've got Aston Villa at home, and I'm just look at the momentum of those two teams. I think Liverpool will win that fairly comfortably. We could be starting the day on Sunday 10 points behind. That's big, state the obvious. So I don't want to go into the discussions of kind of must win, this, that, but I'd love to ask you two predictions. One is what your head thinks the score is going to be, and one is what your heart thinks.
Head says this is going to probably be a 2-2 draw.
Okay.
Heart, 5-0. Repeat what I did last season.
Go on, talk to me more about the heart, because yeah, we absolutely walloped them. But
yeah,
that was a different period. Yeah,
I just think Chelsea, when they've come up against better teams, haven't shown the kind of conviction they've done against the lower placed teams. We've faced majority of our games this season so far have been against teams that currently are in the top 10 of the league. And I just think we've got more power than what they do across the team. And really Sanchez is their weak link, and that's why I want to see Havertz back in the 9 role. I think Sanchez has looked similar to Vicario has done at corners, where he just looks that if we can make that the focal point, we can really just have quite a lot of joy in their box. So if I have Havertz again and Declan Rice being back at right back and Gabriel again back in the team, I think we'll have a lot of joy in corners and in the cutbacks and crosses again. So the heart saying we really should have a lot of joy against this Chelsea team. Head obviously says we're not in a good run of form. We're missing a couple of players. So it could be a tricky game.
Yeah, and on that side of things, the 2-2, if that was to kind of play out, how do you see that going in your head when you visualize a 2-2?
The three in midfield isn't the perfect trio for us, whereas the rest of everything outside of it is. So Caicedo and Lavia, I think, have probably been the best midfield duo in the league so far this season. I think they've really kicked on as a duo, and I've been very surprised how Resca's managed to find that bond between them as well, compared to the previous 2 or 3 managers they've had in the past couple of years. So I do think they could find some joy, and again, possibly just catch us on the break the way Newcastle did last weekend.
Interesting. Yeah, it is wild how like £100 million midfielder Enzo Fernandez is just not there, and no one's really saying anything about it. But yeah, fair play. He has found a formula that seems to be working. I am going to upset people here. Let me read out Tommy and Pontus's predictions. So Tommy says back to winning ways, 2-0 to the Arsenal. Pontus is concerned but not worried, but he does think we win Sunday, and he thinks we win 2-1. I think we're going to lose. I'll be honest. I think the second half against Inter Milan was encouraging, but there's too many of these games like Newcastle away, Champions League away games, Inter, Porto, Bayern. There was another one in there where we didn't score, but it's escaped me. There's just some of these games where if we're not at our systematic best, where everyone's in a really good rhythm and flying with momentum, I just don't see us really having enough to go and win these games. And I think when I felt like we did, it would only ever be a 1-0. I'm not even convinced in our kind of defensive compactness and structure at the minute either.
Mm-hmm.
I think against Newcastle, we looked toothless. Like we had a couple chances at the end. Like Rice should have scored. Like I don't actually agree with the general narrative that we deserve to lose that game. I think a point would have been fair.
Well, obviously, I live up here. One of my friends made a very good point, which I hadn't really thought about myself at the time, is that he said if we hadn't have scored, obviously Newcastle fan, if we hadn't have scored that goal so early, we would have been a lot more open. He probably would have had a lot more joy. But once we went ahead, we were just playing to frustrate you and catch you on the break, and that's exactly what they did.
And that's exactly it. I feel like Arsenal is such a game state driven team, where I think at Liverpool was one of the only games this season I remember where we scored early, and then that kind of obviously helped us and played into our hands. But with how we're playing at the minute, I don't back us to go and kind of get that lead, and as a result, if Chelsea take the lead, which I think they will, I don't back us to come out and turn it around, unfortunately. So I'm going, I don't know what I'm going. I'm going 2-1 to Chelsea. I wanted to say 1-0, but I'm not feeling great about this one. I think if everyone's fit, I think we absolutely go there, take 3 points. It's just the kind of moment we're in, the way things are going. Like I said, I do think Wednesday was really encouraging in that second half.
So Wednesday for me, compared to the Newcastle game, I was sat obviously in a pub watching it. I never once felt, it was the first time in a long time, that we were going to score. It didn't matter how much of the ball we had or what we were putting in the box. It just didn't feel like we were ever going to score. And it's accepted the defeat by about the 60th minute. On Wednesday against Inter, I thought at some point we're going to put this ball in the net to equalise, and hopefully there'll be more open score, but it just didn't happen. There was definitely the performance on Wednesday wasn't bad. I've seen a lot of reactivity on Wednesday where the thought should just be like Arteta out and Mourinho should never play again and stuff like that. So it wasn't a bad performance on Wednesday. It was just unlucky. We got varianced on Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like in the first half, don't get me wrong, I thought it was pretty poor. But I always think my opinion and views on the game is very distorted when I'm kind of in a very emotional crowd and stuff like that. But yeah, first half I was quite disappointed, but in second half, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was good, but it was an improvement. But I think the bar is very much on the floor right now. So yeah, I obviously hope I'm wrong. Tommy, thanks for helping me out. The fourth game I forgot was Atalanta, where we failed to score. I just think, yeah, it's there's too much of a trend there now for me, where it's becoming a little bit of a concern just with the kind of different dynamics we've got going on at the minute. I think system A, when everyone's fit and proper, I'd be saying we'll go here and win 3-1. I don't think we're there at the minute. So yeah, 2-1 Chelsea, in my opinion. Obviously, hope I'm wrong. Hope your heart is correct and your head is wrong as well, because I wouldn't even take a Desmond 2-2 right now. I'd love for us to kind of, I just think if we go and come back from the international break 10 points behind, flipping hell, the room for error then is 0 to none. So yeah, let's see how we get on. It's a tricky test, but I always think Arsenal surprises us in these moments. Like you said earlier, it was similar last year, right? When we were kind of facing that Liverpool team, we were was it 9 points you said behind back then?
Something like 7 to 9 points behind, and that was 20 games in the season, not 10. And we went on a very good run and ended up, what was it, 5 points ahead? City had the games in hand. So we do have it in the team to pull this back and do it. And a lot of people are underestimating just how much of the season's still left to play. And the opposition we've faced compared to the Liverpool squad as well. So
yeah, I think that's the key one. And even, to be honest, as far as a fortnight ago, right? Like going into the Liverpool game, I think lots of people, myself included, weren't feeling great going into that game. And then that first half was just a kind of reminder of just how good this Arsenal team can be. And I think that first half for me showed a huge gap in class between Arsenal and Liverpool. And yeah, like you say, the fixtures have played into it so far. But yeah, let's see how Liverpool get on when their fixtures turn a little bit and when ours ease up a bit, hopefully. So yeah, let's see how we get on. Fingers crossed for 3 points. To anyone going, enjoy it. Be loud and proud, because yeah, they need us at the minute. And yes, if you're watching and not subscribed to the channel and want to hear the post-match review, subscribe to the channel, because I don't know when we're going live. So you need to subscribe to see when we're going live with the review. But it'll be sometime next week. Yeah, international break, and then we'll be back to preview everything on the other side of that. Bobby, nice one. Thanks again for jumping in. And yeah, let's fingers crossed we can go and get 3 points at Stamford Bridge. I cannot deal with 2 weeks of sitting on that and all the narratives that will form. But we got this. Up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.